On today's show, which WNBA training camps present the greatest challenge to players looking to make an opening day roster? With camps starting on Sunday, we're going to take a look at some of the tightest roster crunches in the league. The Locked On Women's Basketball Podcast, it starts right now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to women's basketball. I'm Jackie Powell, and happy Friday. I'm one of your hosts on the program. I cover the New York Liberty at the Next, and I've covered women's basketball and its culture nationally at many other places. Check out all of the excellent women's basketball reporting and writing that we do at thenexthoops.com. And please consider subscribing to make sure that the journalists that work so hard to cover this sport are paid for their valuable work. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And joining me today is Tony East, Indiana Fever beat reporter at the Next and the host of Locked On Pacers. Tony, how are you, and how excited are you to be back in WNBA mode?
Jackie, this is my sixth season covering the Fever. They have expectations. I don't know how to feel. It's going to be very different. People actually think they're going to be good. It's exciting. It's going to be a fun season.
I remember feeling the same way in 2023. And that was the year when Stewie and JJ and Sloot were on the team. And I was like, I covered this team when they had 2 wins. I mean, you've covered the Fever when they've had, what was it, like 6 wins? What was
31? Yeah.
There you go. So it's a really wild brain exercise to go from point A to point B. So speaking of exercises, here's what we're going to do on today's show. So in segment 1, we are going to go over some of the most difficult roster crunches that are going to happen in training camps, which start on Sunday. And spoiler alert, that includes the 2 teams that Tony and I cover. Then in segment 2, we'll go over some tight roster crunches in the league also. And then in segment 3, we're going to do a speed round where we're going to run through teams that provide a ton of opportunity for players looking to crack a WNBA roster. Okay, so Tony, let's start with the Indiana Fever. What does this training camp roster outlook look like?
Yeah, Amber Cox, the GM, the last media we did with her this offseason after they signed Sydney Colson, of all times. We were talking about the draft and what's coming. And the only reason this whole setup is necessary is because that's when she said, we want a competitive camp, which is fascinating to me because given what their offseason is, what their guaranteed contract situation is, what the position of their players is, it seems very clear that they have 10 players who are locks or near locks to make the team and be a part of their team and make up a rotation. And Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, DeWanna Bonner, Natasha Howard, Aaliyah Boston, Sydney Colson, Lexi Hall, Sophie Cunningham, Damaris Dantas, and Brianna Turner. That's great. That's 10 players. That's a starter and a backup at every position. That also fills up almost their entire salary cap. They can only afford 1 more player beyond that to open the year, but they have 5 others coming into camp. And that's why it's so competitive and why she talked about the competition ahead of the draft is they got Jaylen Brown in that trade with the Dallas Wings. Her best game last year was a preseason game against the Fever, so I probably think higher of her than most. And then, of course, there are 3 draftees, Michaela Timpson, Bri Hall, and Yvonne Ejim, all bring something to the table and all fit their style in a way that made them appealing picks for the Fever. So I don't really know what they'll prioritize because they all play different positions. They don't need their reserve players to play a certain spot. As you know, like their whole team, this is every team, is going to be a free agent next year. It's not like you're looking long-term at a certain position either that somebody needs to grow into. So it's hard to really know. I think it's just going to be who is the most impressive of that Brown and draftees group, because that's kind of all it can be.
Do you have like a quick prediction, maybe?
Yeah, Clark played 40 minutes in so many games last year. Kelsey Mitchell has held in big minute roles before. Like, yeah, Colson will probably play, and like someone will be the backup too in theory, but I think they need guard the least, which probably isn't great news for Bree Hall, even though I think her 3-and-D style would fit them pretty well. And Timpson and Ejim are not so different, so I would say the one they picked higher would be the best chance of those. So I would say it's between Jaylen Brown and Timpson to see. And honestly, the fact that one's contract is a rookie scale cheap deal that runs for 4 years and the other is not might end up being an important tiebreaker there.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So we're going to shift to Minnesota, where this training camp and the amount of players they are bringing, I mean, this is going to be so competitive. And I think I understand the rationale. And to be able to show our, I guess not listeners, viewers on YouTube, what this really looks like, I'm going to share my screen so you all can see what this cap situation looks like. So let's take a look. So Nafisa Collier, obviously, she's the best player on the team. She's a lock. Same with Kayla McBride, Courtney Williams, Alana Smith, Natisha Heidemann, Bridget Carlton, and Carly Samuelson, who they just traded for. So I also think that there are two other locks in addition to those folks. And I believe it is the Frenchie in Marim Badiam. And the reason I call her a lock is because the Lynx brass made a trip to Turkey to watch her play for Fenerbahce. And they courted her. They wanted her to come over to the WNBA and play. I don't think they would do that if they didn't, in the back of their mind, sort of say, yeah, she's making this team. The other lock, I believe, is Dorka Juhas. I think she played a really important role during the playoffs. I mean, she stepped in when Alana Smith was really having a tough time with her back. So I think Dorka Juhas is a lock as well. She's also coming late because of her European season. She does not break prioritization rules, although I believe it will be after this season. That's when, well, we don't know because there will be a new CBA.
I agree with your locks in general. I'd be pretty surprised if Diamond Miller's not on the opening night team.
I mean, I don't know, because when I did the calculations, Tony, it's like with Miller, Pilley, Jess Shepard, and Anastasia Alari Kosu, those are all the folks that I think are competing for these final spots. Also, wait a minute. I think Grace Berger might be more of a lock than Diamond Miller.
Claimed. They liked her. They claimed her.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have a lot of their first round draft picks competing against, folks that have played in the W before. I mean, I think we said off air, I think maybe they should stash Kosu, but this is
a tough one.
This is so tough. Now, moving on to the New York Liberty, the team I cover, and let me take the Lynx off. Okay, so the New York Liberty, they will have 12 players on their roster this season. That news came via team sources back when Brianna Stewart signed her contract. We know the locks: Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquil Jones, Maureen Johannes. It will be her first training camp ever. Leonie Fibish will be a bit late because of the Spanish League playoffs. Rebecca Gardner, Kennedy Burke, Natasha Cloud, and Niara Sabali. And you include Benijah Laney Hamilton, who is on roster. She'll be rehabbing from a meniscus tear surgery. It's not clear if she'll be expected to return at the end of the regular season or won't play at all. So if you include Laney Hamilton, that makes 10 with 2 more to go. So the Liberty welcomed Izzy Harrison, the girlfriend of Natasha Cloud, with quite open arms and some pomp and circumstance a couple weeks ago. And the front office believes that Marquisha Davis has athleticism that is very hard to find out there. So that could be the final 12. But New York sees training camp as an opportunity to figure out who they bring back when they have 3 key players playing in Eurobasket. So Niara Sabally, Leone Fibish, and Maureen Johannes will be gone for the majority of the month of June. So these players that are in camp have an opportunity to learn the system and impress the coaches with a potential opportunity to return to the team for the month of June. That could be what happens to Jalen Sherrod, who was on the roster last year in spurts. It could be what happens to Leanna Odom, who is returning to Liberty training camp after years not playing professional basketball. She was the Liberty's 15th overall pick in 2020. A really fascinating story I will be keeping my eyes on. So that's New York. Tony, before we get to the break, tell me about Chicago.
Well, Jackie, our recording timing is funny. Minnesota just added Diamond Johnson. Even add to the competitiveness.
Oh my God.
That is a loaded camp.
I can't. Oh my God. Well, thank you for breaking that news. Oh my
People listening will already know, but wow.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, Minnesota, it gets even nuttier.
Uphill battle for her to make the team, certainly, but I was surprised she wasn't drafted. I think she could at least impress some there. Yeah, Chicago, like, before we actually talk about who they are, do you have an identity crisis question with them? Not that they have a new coaching staff. It's not like a bad thing to not know who you are yet, but like, do they really want to be awesome right now? Like, I don't know how good that they want to be, but they certainly added talent in the summer. I feel like they have a pretty solid top 9, 10-ish that are for sure going to be on this team next year, which makes some of camp pretty easy. Courtney Vandersloot's going to be on the team. Mo Jeff's going to be on the team. Atkins, Banham, Allen, that's all new. Great wing will play. Angel Reese, obviously, Cardozo, Williams, they were all great last year. And then, of course, Onion Were, your fave, the good old days. Siuka's not coming over this year, right? Do they know that yet?
I don't.
Because that's a lot of the questions I would have about their directional choices.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. And it looks like Phoenix signed another player as well, which we will, oh my God.
So I just named 9 players, 10 if you count their first round pick, their top pick. I did not say Kia Nurse. I would imagine she's going to make the team given the contract that they gave her, right? So their top 10 feels pretty set to me with like normal positional balance. But between Siuka not knowing there, Ben Lith obviously is talented enough and they picked her in the first round, but their depth chart kind of says they might need another big on the team, right? They have Reese, they have Cardozo, they have Williams, but a lot of their other front court players are more suited to play the wing or play the forward to me. Do they want to look really hard at Jessica Carter? You would know more about Jessica Carter than I would from her Liberty experience after the draft. So I feel like their camp will come down to who's actually involved and what positions do they feel like they need, because their depth chart kind of suggests they might need a little more front court depth.
I mean, Tyler Marsh comes from more of a modern style of play.
From here, former Pacers assistant.
And he's more familiar with Jessica Carter because the Aces had her during the regular season on the roster as someone, just a reserve big, someone to, I think, help them function throughout practices. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, she definitely has size, but that will be something to keep on the lookout for. Now, coming up, we're going to get into some more competitive camps, which include teams like Los Angeles and Seattle. But first, I do want to tell you all about our friends at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Thank you very much, Monarch Money. And I am back here with Tony East, and we are discussing how these training camps are going to shake out. So I'm going to get us started with the Seattle Storm and sort of run through how tight this is. So Seattle can only hold 11. And so I do want to show you all this. So why don't I share my screen? And so here's Seattle. So they have Gabby Williams, Skylar Diggins-Smith, Nneka, Ezzy, Alicia Clark, Lexi Brown, who they traded for, Katie Lou Samuelson, who they got after she signed a buyout with the Fever, Dominique Malunga, potential generational talent. And then after that, it's sort of like, okay, well, they need a backup guard, so probably Erica Wheeler. And they did get Lee Uru in the 3-team trade that sent Jewel Lloyd to Las Vegas. So you'd think, okay, that is probably their 10. They can only have 11. It's going to come down to that final spot. So who will it be out of Zaya Cook, Brianna Frazier, their 4 draftees, which include, you have Jordan Hobbs, Madison Connor, Serena Sundell, and then you have a draftee from last year's draft in Indiana, alumna Mackenzie Holmes. I can only guess that Holmes probably won't make the team because Seattle has 3 centers as it is. So they might need some more shooting. Okay, Tony, tell us about the Sparks.
You got to give Mackenzie Holmes a chance, Seattle. Do it for me. Do it for the Hooters everywhere. Yeah, the Sparks are very confusing. I think a lot of people would agree. Not that their roster doesn't make sense or have talent. It certainly does. Sims, Hamby, Plum, great players. Rakia Jackson's ascending. Burrell is awesome. Julia Almond's playing again. I got to see her awesome rookie season with the Fever. Ari McDonald's great. Stevens is going to be there. Brink's going to be there. Russell's going to be there. Okay, I already have said 11 players. Like, are we just done? But they picked a first-round pick that everybody thought would go later, and then they picked Fagan in the second round. Everybody thought would go earlier. They also have Emma Cannon, who I've covered a lot of, who's like the greatest veteran of all time. Like, everybody loves being around Emma Cannon, loves having her on the team, and she just makes mid-range shots in her sleep and like is valuable to these teams that have lots of young players. Their priorities are going to be fascinating to me. I mentioned, I think we could say this about a lot of teams. Like, do they want to win right this second? They were just picking in the lottery 2 years in a row at the second straight pick, but they added a lot of talent. Obviously, they got Kelsey Plum in the door. They probably think they can be better right now. Do you think they're a playoff team right now, Jackie? I don't know that I think they're a playoff team right this second. They probably should be indexing on these young players, but they probably can't keep both of their top 2 picks, I wouldn't think. And I think that's going to be their fascinating battle in camp, is which of their draft picks can make the team. And if they're both awesome, who among their top 11 that I already said, is it Emma Cannon, who is always hanging around in an unprotected veteran deal, feels like for her whole career, or someone else that gets lost in the shuffle here?
That's a really good point. I do think I would be shocked if LA did not keep Fagan and Sarah Ashley Barkley.
Yeah, I would imagine they would do that too, but then one of the other veterans that they like or presume to like would not be able to be around.
I mean, I think Cameron Brink probably won't be ready to step on the court until mid-season at least. And so I don't know if they get into a hardship situation where they have some players that were with them in camp that come back. We'll also see what other injuries happen. We do not know. But yes, that is a very tricky roster.
Fully healthy, it just feels like there's 13 players for 12 spots. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, they're very much like Chicago, which
Yes.
where it's
I've
like
had two of those. You gave me two teams that I'm like, okay, I get that you want to be better, but like, are you really better? Should you want to be better yet?
well, okay, let's shift to maybe a team that's a little bit less complicated, or at least I think so, in the Atlanta Dream. Although,
okay, easy.
yeah.
Yes, I think this one's pretty simple. Their veteran additions make a lot of sense. They were knocking on the door last year. Canada's in, Gray's in, SWK is in, Ryan Howard's in, Bree Jones is in, Nia Coffey's in, Griner's in, Hillman's in. They have the thing that I'd have questions about is it's not necessarily a battle. It's just like they have a lot of perimeter players competing for their last spots and not a lot of front court players, which is what they should do. They have Bree Jones, Brittany Griner, and Nas Hillman on their team. So Pow and Haley Jones, I think, will be fighting, but I think they're both going to make it. I think they'll be a part of this Dream Team this year. And then Ashley Jones, Maya Caldwell, I think that's probably their battle to like round out the roster.
It's interesting. I think Atlanta is a lot like New York in that their camp is it's much smaller than some of these others where it's like you've got 18, 20 people coming in. Atlanta and New York, it's like around 15, which I'll be really interested in New York asking why that decision was made.
I think if my guess, because the Fever's 15 too, if it's really clear what your top 10 or 11 is, it's harder to get that interest of a roster battle for the rest of the players, one. And two, it's really easy to run 3 teams of 5 in a lot of drills. So I think that's part of it too. Like a couple years ago when the Fever were just awful and I was covering them, they had like 22 players in the mix and like somewhere in and out of camp to start, they had way more than 18 because you don't know who's going to make it. But when it's really obvious what a roster is going to be, I think it's a little harder to convince people to like, hey, come to camp. Like, they know what their chances.
No, that's a really good point. Now, moving on, I'm going to cover Las Vegas. So the Aces can hold 12 players on their roster. And again, it would be a little funky if the players they signed during free agency and traded for in Dana Evans, Tiffany Mitchell, and Cheyenne Parker don't make the roster. So I expect them to. Parker-Tyus is pregnant, and so she most likely won't play until August, and she's due in late June, and that's at the earliest. There's a great piece from Callie Finn that details how she was hesitant this offseason and why it was a change in birth control that led to her second pregnancy. It's a really interesting story to keep an eye on, especially with those CBA negotiations ongoing. But anyway, you also include Stokes, who I would argue probably shouldn't be on this roster anymore, but that's me. But she'll probably make the team. Then Megan Gustafson. And then after that, the Aces have room for Queen Agbo's contract and then 2 training camp / rookie scales at 69,267. So Aaliyah Nye, the shocker at 13 overall, she has a shot along with last year's draft and stash and Liz Kitley. And then you have 5 other players that will be fighting for those final 2 spots. I know Deja Kelly is one of them, but that's Vegas.
I'm rooting for Liz Kelly.
Yeah?
It just sucks to tear your ACL during your senior college season and like have it make your draft and rookie year in air quotes. Obviously shouldn't play. Like it sucks. It ruins a very key time of like your human growth on top of your basketball growth. So human interest story, go Liz Kelly.
I mean, I think she has a really good chance, and I think they're going to need.
She's a good player.
I think with Cheyenne Parker not able to play until maybe August, I think what she does could help them. I think they're going to need someone who can space for Asia, and Kitley can hit, those mid-range jumpers. I think she can shoot some threes, not a lot, but I think she's a little bit more competent offensively than Kia Stokes. And so that's sort of what they're looking for. They need to take some pressure off Asia Wilson. So I would be shocked if she didn't make the team for that reason, because Cheyenne Parker will be out until she gives birth to her second child. Now, in our final segment, we are going to be talking all about these very, I don't know, do I call them loaded camps? It's a group of teams that there's a lot of opportunity for players under the radar to try to make a splash. We will be back. I am back here with Tony East. We are talking about these training camps and roster crunches, with training camps beginning on Sunday. So this is going to be a speedier round where we're going to go through these last teams where there is ample space for players in camp to make their mark and try to make the toughest league in American pro sports. Sure, we have expansion this year, but the WNBA remains the most difficult league to make. Okay, so Tony, what types of predictions are you making for the Dallas Wings?
Dallas, have fun with the show of adding a generational popular star to your team in the middle of the night. I had a lot of fun with it last year. It's someone else's turn to deal with the experience that this will be. Yeah, they're caught in the middle of like a team that was trying to win with their old era and their new team having lots of fun, young talent. But it makes a lot of sense what I think their group will be coming through camp, right? Enrique's going to be there. Hans Allen's going to be there. McClellan's going to be there. Carrington's going to be there. Ty Harris is certainly going to be there. Melissa Smith, who they traded for, is going to fit much better there than she did in Indiana. She's going to be there. Maddie Segrist is going to be there. Paige Beggars is going to be there. It's very easy to get very far down their roster with like, okay, this player's obviously going to be on the team. They have a lot of draft picks that will be probably air quotes competing for their end of their roster spots, but they didn't pick very high after one, right? They picked Paige and then they picked Madison Scott right early in the second round. I think she's got a
James.
Never mind. That's probably it between James and Scott. That could just be their 12 right there. So I was going to say they have some choices to make between a lot of their other training camp deals, but their 12 seems relatively stable to me.
I mean, Kurt Miller made it very clear that they built the roster so that a lot of their draft picks would make it. Okay, I'm back with the Connecticut Sun. So Connecticut, they have 20 people at camp. They also have a ton of cap money. I'd say maybe they have 7 players that are roster locks and 5 spots that are up for grabs. I mean, you know, this is a place where Anissa Morrow and Sanaya Rivers and Layla Lacan, 3 players drafted in the past 2 years, are most definitely making this team. So, you know, we will see. It's 5 spots for 13 people. That's very competitive. But I think this goes back to your point earlier, Tony. Now, the Washington Mystics, take us away.
Yeah, we have questions. Do the Mystics know they're allowed to add players in the offseason? That leads us to their camp this year. A lot of familiar faces in Washington. Sykes is going to be there. Dolson's going to be there. Shakira Austin's going to be there. Congratulations to the holdovers. Their team is very young, and I think they're going to prioritize those draft picks. It feels like between their leadership change and their offseason that they are looking forward to their youth-filled team this year, to put it nicely. Georgia, Melbourne, Sykes, Kiki Citrone, Edwards, Kone, Dolson, Austin, and Angsler. If all those players make it, that's already 10. I guess there could be some Lucy Olsen battles in the back there. Sugg Sutton obviously is going to put her name in the mix. And if those 2 make it, which seems like the most likely to, congrats, there's your 12. That was a pretty easy one to me.
Now, I have the last 2, and these are probably 2 of the most wild to try to predict. Like, that's part of what's so interesting about it.
It's so funny to me how different their situations are, too. Like, one team wants to be awesome, and I have no idea who's going to be on the team, and one team would be fine going 0-44, and I have no idea who's going to be on the team.
And we're talking about the Phoenix Mercury and the Golden State Valkyries. So the Phoenix Mercury they might have 20 people now. They signed someone else. Yeah. Monique Kaya Manaki signed a rookie scale as we're recording. So they have 20 people at camp and essentially maybe half of their roster to fill. So obviously Clea Copper, Satu Sabali, Alyssa Thomas, Kalani Brown, Sammy Whitcomb, and Kittia Lotska, who Phoenix signed to a protected deal. Those are the locks. Although maybe we say that Natasha Mack and Celeste Taylor make the team, as they were critical.
They liked Celeste last year. Yeah.
Yes. So maybe the Mercury have 4 spots up for grabs for a lot of people.
A lot of people.
And so Golden State, I have to share my screen for Golden State, because this is just, there is a lot going on here. And so part of the issue is they have so many WNBA caliber players. So Tiffany Hayes, she will probably be their number 1 option. Okay, 1. Steph Talbot, 2. Kayla Thornton, 3. Monique Billings, 4. Chechi Sandalasini, okay, that is 5. Temi Fagbenle, who I think should not have been let go by the Fever. Okay, so that's 6. Then you're looking down this roster and you're
Burton's probably into, I would say.
Veronica Burton, Julie Van Lowe, who is she is a point guard. And as we know, point guards are very hard to find. Janelle Salon has been highly touted. And there's still so many players here. Cheyenne Sellers, how healthy is she? Do they stash her? Caitlin Chen, does she make this roster? Kate Martin is a fan favorite. I'd be shocked if she doesn't make this team. They claimed Letitia Amihir off waivers. You'd think, okay, a player they claim off waivers they really want on their team. What's the count now, Tony? Am I up to almost 10? Maybe, I doubt Alyssa Cunane is going to make this roster, but there are some other international players like Kiara Linskins. She's really good, and she comes from Belgium. I mean, she was on that team with Emma Miesemann.
I bet this seems like a team with a lot of players that they'll temporarily suspend until the end of Eurobasket to assess their reality.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is room for maybe more suspensions, but then maybe, sort of like what the Liberty you're doing. Okay, training camp, we're going to sort of see who do we need because of Eurobasket. I mean,
right.
But this is a team in a very different situation than the Phoenix Mercury, as you said. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a very exciting team to watch. It is so hard for me to predict how any of this for the Valkyries is going to shake out, besides maybe Tiffany Hayes. Tiffany Hayes is going to be the top scorer on this team. That is the only thing I seem to be able to predict quite well. Anyway, that is all for us. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen today. I want to give a huge thank you to Tony for hopping on the show.
Crazy year coming, Jackie. I don't know what to make of this. I might be covering more than one playoff game for once.
This has been Jackie Powell and
Tony East. You are locked on to women's basketball.
And we are signing off.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.